Welcome those of you who are just on time, and welcome to our international audience. We are live as we speak. So we are live. We are live. Now here's what's going to happen. The young people are going to take the lead in order to get us up and get us start eating so we're not losing any time. So young people, take the lead up, hit that table, start getting food, and what will happen is the geezers will follow you. They know what to do. So take the food, because in about the, for those who are watching us on the internet through the live feed, we have a video that you're going to be able to see as we are starting our youth-led event here. And then you are going to hear recommendations from the young people themselves who are going to be presenting the recommendations to you. For all of our young people, for all the young people, the recommendations will be, your part will begin in about 20 minutes from right now. And your recommendations will be first, and then everything else follows. Am I getting that stare for some reason? Okay. All right. So thank you. And we're now going to roll the video that you have for our live feed audience while we are getting set up to have the recommendations delivered. Thank you.
Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Richard Lazaro Alonso from Fresno, California.
I'm Alex Collin. I'm hometown from Scotland.
Barbara Huggins. I'm from Pennsylvania, USA. My name is
My name is Adrian McLemore. I'm 26 years old from Dayton, Ohio. I spent about 11 years of my life in foster care in the state of Georgia and then again in the state of Ohio. This week we're in Maryland attending an International Summit of Youth in Care. It's the first ever youth congress. 30 young people from around the world have descended upon this university campus to come up with positive change, development, and recommendations to change the way the system works, not just nationally here in America, but also internationally across the country. I think it's very important and it's vital that we get a different perspective of what's going on in different places because we all have a similar background, but we all have different ways of dealing with it. And so I'm really, really excited to be here. What I hope to accomplish out of this is worldwide positive change as well as a cultural and stigma shift of what it's like to grow up in group home or residential foster care.
Like all along, most of the times there are the youth that push on the background, but this time, the youth that put forward. And I just love the idea, the whole world is there waiting for you, and they want to hear from you. They want to see what you have.
Hi, my name is Shannon. I'm 21 years old. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Richard Lazaro Alonso from Fresno, California.
I'm Alex Collin. I'm hometown from Scotland.
Barbara Huggins. I'm from Pennsylvania, USA.
My name is Danielle Douglas. I'm 29 years of age. I'm from Ireland.
I'm from Canada.
From Fresno, California.
Minnesota, Grand Rapids.
Of the state of Maryland.
Portland, Oregon.
The conference is going to be big.
My name is Adrian McLemore. I'm 26 years old from Dayton, Ohio. I spent about 11 years of my life in foster care in the state of Georgia and then again in the state of Ohio. This week we're in Maryland attending an International Summit of Youth in Care. It's the first ever youth congress. 30 young people from around the world have descended upon this university campus to come up with positive change, development, and recommendations to change the way the system works, not just nationally here in America, but also internationally across the country. I think it's very important and it's vital that we get a different perspective of what's going on in different places because we all have a similar background, but we all have different ways of dealing with it. And so I'm really, really excited to be here. What I hope to accomplish out of this is worldwide positive change as well as a cultural and stigma shift of what it's like to grow up in group home or residential foster care.
Like all along, most of the times there are the youth that pushed on the background, but this time, the youth that put forward, and I just love the idea, the whole world is there waiting for you, and they want to hear from you, they want to see what you have.
Hi, my name is Shannon. I'm 21 years old. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Richard Lazaro Alonso from Fresno, California.
I'm Alex Fallon. I'm hometown from Scotland.
Barbara Huggins. I'm from Pennsylvania, USA. My name is Danielle Douglas. I'm 29 years of age. I'm from Ireland.
I'm from Canada.
From Fresno, California.
Minnesota, Grand Rapids. Of the state of Maryland.
Portland, Oregon.
The conference is gonna be big. The conference is gonna be big.
Latrice, if someone would help me, would pictures? Can you see if you can go retrieve Latrice? So, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. Would you put the roll of the slides that you had up until we know we're ready to start with your PowerPoints? Are they here so that I can recognize them with them standing as co-hosts? Are they speaking? Or are they being recognized? Okay. So you guys want to come up? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Now that was weak. Came all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. Can we try that one more time? Good afternoon. And good afternoon and welcome to those of you who are joining this event live stream via the World Wide Web. Welcome, and we welcome you. My name is Roger Connor. I'm a consultant to Lift Teens, consultant to the Andrus Family Fund, and one of the support staff for this event. My job is to welcome you, and I have a wonderful job because I would like for you to be aware of some of the people and the organizations that have made this event possible. It's always dangerous to list the people and organizations that make an event like this possible because we're going to miss some. I apologize to you in advance, but there are some people we need to acknowledge. The most important are the four host organizations that are the core host of the institutional basis for this. And those are Lift Teens, Latrice Ware, the Maryland Foster Youth Resource Center, and Foster Care India. And we thank you and your organizations very much for making this possible. Our fourth host organization is Voices out in California. And let's send a shout out to those who will be listening to us from California on our live stream. Thank you, Voices. There are many organizations that have been involved, some offering volunteers, some offering infrastructure, some offering funds that I want to mention. First and foremost, the Ohio Youth Advisory Board and the Foster Care Alumni Association Ohio chapter, who gave an incredible number of hours and were essentially the core of the staff of this event, several of whom took time off their vacation time in order to be here and to staff this entity. Thank you very much. Let's hold the applause to the end because there's more to come. The Maryland Department of Human Resources, thank you guys. The Maryland Department of Juvenile Services as well. Baltimore County, Prince George's County were a very important part of the support, as was the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption and the Maryland Association of Resources for Families and Youth, and Blessed Haven, who provided us with much needed relief and support at an important time. Finally, I want to mention the organizations whose funding helped make this event possible, especially the Andrus Family Fund, our principal sponsor, and the Annie E. Casey Foundation, and the Dave Thomas Foundation, the Maryland Department of Human Resources and Department of Juvenile Services also provided funding. Now, I know that several of you are sitting there and saying, Roger, you didn't mention my organization, IFCO. Where's IFCO? Thank you, IFCO. But events like this don't happen without support. The support will now leave the stage. And Latrice Ware, the one inspirational leader who helped imagine this event and help bring it to pass, will now carry us forward. Let's have a round of applause for all of the sponsoring organizations, volunteers, and supports.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome. So I first want to highlight a couple of people that we did not mention. The Congressional Coalition on Adoption Institute, who amazingly stepped in and helped with everything from infrastructure to getting food to connecting our youth with Capitol Hill to getting Senator Mary Landrieu to attend our event. I just want to ask that you give them a round of applause. As well as the Office of Provincial Advocate, Erwin Elman has been a staunch supporter of this initiative. He has from the very beginning been on my back about how we move this forward, and he is also a sponsor of this luncheon. So I'm going to be very brief and just say that most importantly, This is about the delegates, and this is their space and their time, and you are courageous and brave enough to give them your ear and allow them to let you know what they recommend for bettering child welfare. And what I found so significant in this week is they're not about just telling you what they want to see. They're about action. So they're about being a part of the solution. And I've had the opportunity to get to know them, to be inspired by them, and I hope that you get that same feeling that, you know what, if we make a space, a larger space at the table for youth and alumni in care, for their voices to be heard, if we make that a priority, we might be able to move forward this movement around bettering child welfare, not just on a national scale, but on a global scale, a lot faster. So, again, I said I'd be brief, so I'd like to introduce our MC for the luncheon, Lilia Zahareva. Lilia is originally from Sofia, Bulgaria, and she currently resides in Canada. She is one of the young leaders who helped plan this event in my living room 6 months ago. And I just want her to take a moment to look out and see what we accomplished. Lilia?
I'd like to welcome everyone to the International Summit of Youth in Care. And yes, I'm glad that Latrice mentioned that because I remember in December, I went to Washington, D.C. And first I was contacted and someone said, why don't you come to Washington? And being from British Columbia, Canada, I thought, great, it's just a couple of hours away. Little did I know, I would end up flying across the country, which included getting lost by myself in Las Vegas. So you can imagine that was quite an interesting experience. I won't speak on that later. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But here I am, back at the event, and for the first time now that I'm in Washington, D.C., I've seen more than a whiteboard. Hopefully I'll even get to see the White House this time. So that would be very nice. I'd like to take this moment to do something very, very special. I'd like to welcome the first multi-generational forum of the inaugural International Summit of Youth in Care. And I'd like the 30 incredible, talented, motivating delegates to please stand. And can we all give them a round of applause? Okay, I think we need better applause here. Okay, and while you're still standing, there's something really, really important I'd like to say. One thing that's been asked of us all week is, how many years have you been in care? What was your status as a youth in care? And one number that we didn't acknowledge is not how many years you were in care, but how many years of your life have you devoted to advocacy? How many years of your life have you devoted to helping people who are coming after you? And how many endless months and how many sacrifices have you made to make your communities locally and globally a better place? So I want another round of applause for those years. We're so much more than youth in care. And to me, those are the years to acknowledge because they're the ones that are truly going to define us in this moment and in the future. Thank you so much. Another thing that I'd like to acknowledge is that we've had a few wonderful experiences with expert panels. And the people that are here as allies today to support us are so committed and so incredible that more than once, and from more than one of these individuals, I've heard, why do you want to listen to us? You guys are the experts. And I think that speaks so much to the commitment and to the heart that our allies bring to us. So if they could stand, please. Our adult allies in the room. Some of you may be known as geezers, recycled teenagers, our support staff. And you've supported us tirelessly throughout this week. Some of you have traveled from across the pond to be here, and we're so, so appreciative. So now I'm going to introduce a very special speaker. I'd like to welcome Brian Samuels to the stage, please. Now, as Brian comes up, I'm just going to say a couple of words about Brian, and hopefully he'll be able to take over and we can hear it from his mouth. But Brian Samuels is the Commissioner for the Administration on Children, Youth, and Families, the Administration for Children and Families, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So either I'm mangling that or it's an incredibly long and prestigious title. So either way, I'm so impressed. And Brian, in reading a little bit about the work that you've done, the reputation that you have in the community is of being an innovator, of being incredibly diligent. And I know that in one of your positions you reduced residential care by 20%. And deinstitutionalization is something we've talked about. So let's give a round of applause for that. It's just one of your many incredible accomplishments. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
If you want, I can join you. We can do-si-do a little
How's
bit,
that?
Too.
So, good afternoon. You know, the first thing I want to say to everybody in the room and those who are participating online is congratulations. This is a huge accomplishment. You know, it is unfortunate that the experience of abuse and neglect is an international phenomenon. That's unfortunate for that. But the strength and courage that everybody in the room has demonstrated, both in exiting the foster care system and still believing that you had a contribution to make, but then all showing up here and doing the work that you've done this week is an incredible accomplishment, and you ought to know that from somebody who cares about your work. So I want to affirm the contribution that you've made to the child welfare system. Here in the United States, I am the commissioner, which means that I'm responsible for the programs and funding related to child welfare in the United States, so it's a unique position. I also have the responsibility for programs that address the needs of the runaway and homeless youth population, as well as work on domestic violence and intimate partner violence. And so it's really a unique opportunity to not just think about the risk and challenges for young people who are aging out of foster care, but also thinking about the risk and challenges for young people who are runaway and homeless. And as many challenges as there are with reforming the child welfare system so it produces better results for young people, there are real challenges for the young people who are living on the streets and who are living, sleeping on others' couches, and don't have the benefit of any support and don't have the benefit of any rights to services and supports. And so I think as we think universally about these challenges, we got to change foster care, but we also have to change the societies and the communities that we have that say it's okay for the runaway and homeless youth population to be out there isolated with the absence of even the benefits of child welfare. So I think if we're going to think about these issues universally and we're going to address them internationally, I think we ought to be thinking about all vulnerable youth and how we use the work that you're doing as the beginning of a process of changing the way governments across this world deal with all vulnerable youth. So that's just my own editorial. So I'll make 2 points and then I'll get out of your way. The one reason why I think this meeting is important, and the one thing that I'd like you all to think about as you go back to your countries and do this work, is one of the things that I suspect you got confirmed during this week is that you're not alone. It is easy for young people who age out of foster care to feel like they're on their own and to feel isolated and to think that there is no community of support out there. And what you have begun here and what you can take back to each of your countries is the sense that none of you are alone, and that building a network of mutual support is as important a thing for you to do going forward as it is to try to change the child welfare system. Because every day, at least in this country, every year, over 270 children exit the foster care system. Thankfully, most of them are leaving with families, but they nonetheless move through and out of the system. And so you building a system of mutual support so that no one has to be isolated after they've exited the foster care system is really critical. And I really encourage you to give that consideration. And then the last thing that I would say, and I hope that to learn more about your recommendations, is I believe what's missing from the child welfare system in this country, and I suspect in other countries also, is a real commitment not just to intervening, but a real commitment to supporting healing and recovery. Right? Is we can do more services, we can get you more families, we can find you all mentors, we could do all of that stuff. But if there isn't an element of healing and recovery for all of us, then exiting foster care, regardless of permanency or not, won't have addressed the fundamental issue that brought you to the attention of the foster care system. And so I hope all of us see healing and recovery from maltreatment, from abuse and neglect, from abandonment is an essential element to any child welfare system. And I hope your recommendations can include and amplify the important role that child welfare can and should play in making you better for having been in foster care and better for the services that you've received, so that you can make the countries that you come from and the communities that you live in better places for everybody to live. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for one last do-si-do. Thank you. Okay, so now I'd like to invite the members of our panel to join us on stage. Welcome. Okay, and I'm going to give a quick introduction of the panel members, and hopefully we'll hear a little bit from them. We've met a couple of them already this week, and then we're going to have our groups in the order that we had this morning, our 5 groups, and you all remember the order, are going to come and share in 5 to 7 minutes your recommendations.
Hi. Sixto is MIA right now, so I'm kind of filling in. You guys already told him a little bit about you, but I'm going to have you guys just say a couple things about yourselves. Just keep in mind time and a fun fact about yourself. So, we can start from left to right.
Good.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Maria Herzog, and I have got different hats. I was invited, which for I'm really thankful, and I would like to thank from here again the invitation. I'm really feeling privileged and honored to be here. So I was invited as a member of the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child. But this is, so to say, my passion. My main profession is I'm a sociologist, a researcher, and I teach social work students on child welfare, child protection, and that's what I've been doing during the last almost 30 years now. And I've been involved with alternative care issues for more than 20 years now, and I hope that we can reflect on your recommendations and questions.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julie Gilbert-Rossicki, and now I don't have to worry about Sixto's pronunciation of my last name. I think I got it right this time. It's really an honor to be here. I traveled 15 minutes from my home in Columbia. I work in Baltimore, Maryland for an organization called International Social Service. We're really proud to be part of an international summit. Having an international dialogue and thinking globally is my passion. I've been doing child welfare work, child advocacy work for a long time. I don't even remember how long now. And I have children. I'm passionate about kids. I'm passionate about travel. And a little known fact is when I'm not traveling, I'm training for triathlons. And I really look forward to dialogue with you.
Well, I'm Kathleen Strotman, and I'm the Executive Director of the Congressional Coalition on Adoption Institute, and I have been working in federal policy related to child welfare for the past 15 years. I first started as a member of the legislative staff for Senator Mary Landrieu, a Democrat from Louisiana, and I did that because I had gone to law school specifically to work and advocate for the rights of children, and so being able to serve in that position was a dream come true for me. I was proud to be part of this. My passion is youth voice. I am saddened to see how many of these global conversations are happening or how many local conversations are happening without the real type of meaningful participation that Lisa was so great to point out to us yesterday, so that youth are not only a part of being able to inform those adults that are involved in this, their experiences, but as I said at the very beginning of this, I'm more interested in your incredible problem-solving skills and your resilience and intelligence that I think are the sometimes missing ingredients that we need in order to take some of these issues that we've been struggling with in many cases decades and turn them around on their head. And my fun fact, my staff loves when I use this, I'm married to my high school sweetheart. So.
Hi, I'm Erwin Ellman. I'm the Provincial Advocate for Children and Youth in Ontario, Canada, which means I'm an officer of the legislature, and my office is charged with elevating the voice of children and youth in state care on the fringes of state care. I'm so privileged and honored to be here, and thank you for the invitation, allowing me to be on the panel with the rest of the panelists. It's an honor to be with them as well. I'm a parent of 2 little children, and I told Sixto my fun fact was I really like, because I thought I was in the States, so I'd say I really like Bruce Springsteen, have my whole life. Yes. Then well, there's one other person who knows who he is in the audience, because Sixto didn't know who he was. But no, he didn't. That's sad. But that was my fun fact, and back over to you, Rashida.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to hand it over to Sixto.
Hi, my name is Sixto Canso, and it's truly an honor to be a delegate here at the International YouthInCare Summit. So from my understanding right now, we're going to have the groups come up and give a 5-minute, their 5-minute presentation on their recommendation. So I'm going to pass it over.
All right, so if I could have the first group that presented this morning join us on stage. And while we're doing that, so we had some time to refine and practice this morning. The presentations are wonderful. I look forward to seeing them again in their perfected and slightly more brief stage. So I'm very excited about that. And while I do that, I'll also add that if the next group could wait in the wings here while we prepare, that would help smooth our transition a little bit. And if you have a PowerPoint, it can be set up right there before the next group comes on. So if we could just all make sure to keep that flow going. Thank you so much, and I will pass it on.
Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are representing a group which works about theme deinstitutionalization. We are proud, we are mixed, so we are international. I am from Czech Republic, I am Barbara.
Hello everyone, my name is Helena Inkinen and I come from Finland.
Hi, my name is Linda Lee Zambito. I am from the state of Florida.
Hi, my name is Rudy Soto. I'm from the state of Oregon.
We will start with some kind of introduction. Then we will pass to the problem and then solution and our project. We think that institutional care is a big issue because the awareness around the world there is lack of awareness around the world. Sorry, I have some kind of trouble. Our definition of institutional care is that it's large. That's the large amount of young living in a facility or building that is not family-based. I want to emphasize that it's not family-based. And there is lots of children in one place. So there is no family or loving and healthy environment to be or grow up into the healthy, stable, and productive adult. And also I want to emphasize that institutional care could be referred to be like institution, baby or children homes, group of homes, congregate care, also residential care, treatment homes, juvenile justice, also mental health facilities, and there is lots of more. So we want to make sure that the awareness around the world will be there and possible to some kind of inform.
Hi, I will be speaking about the problems of institutional care. There are several complications and negative effects for a young person growing up in institutional care. Institutional care is typically considered a temporary placement. In 2009, the UN put forth guidelines that exclaim institutional care is to be chosen when the placement is of emergency nature or a predetermined and limited duration. However, many young people stay in this temporary placement for years or until they leave the system. Another severely negative effect of institutional care has been discovered from the past 50 years of research. Young people who grow up in institutional care suffer considerable deprivation of social interaction, such as the affection and love from a caregiver. For babies, these basic acts are vital in normal brain growth. The discovery of the extremely neglected babies living in Romanian institutions during the 1990s can attest to the emotional, intellectual, and physical harm non-family-based care can cause. Neglecting the basic emotions of needs of children often bring about severe retardation of growth and even death. Unfortunately, those residing in institutional care also often commit their first criminal offense within that placement. What may seem like a typical sibling rivalry of fighting over a video game can be deemed as criminal assault in an institutional placement. Just the notion of incurring such a dramatic offense from a small action really depicts the nature of institutions as bleak and impersonal environments. Lastly, many of those who exit non-family-based care, example, institutional placements, have limited to no aftercare assistance. No support system to turn to when transitioning through adulthood because they didn't have the opportunity to establish any supports throughout their life. And thus, this will continue further isolation because of the lasting stigma associated with institutional care.
I'm sharing our proposed solution to reach deinstitutionalization. We would like to raise awareness about the negative effects of institutionalization and the need for more family-based care. We recognize that this is an enormous undertaking, but we're compelled to make a difference. In order to accomplish this goal, we're determined to educate the international community about the lasting harm that young people suffer by growing up in institutions and the healthy, loving, and stable environments that family-based care can provide. For those who have to exit the system from an institution, we're also focused on reducing stigma by changing the negative outlook and attitude towards youth in institutions. We plan to share real stories, faces, and information from youth living in institutions and situations that we believe will move the hearts and minds of many. More people will care and feel connected to our cause. We hope that by sharing awareness and educating folks, we will inspire the international community to put forth action and thereby reduce the population who experience institutionalized care.
And how do we plan to do that? Well, we have already contacted some of our background organizations because we have planned something huge for you guys. We have planned a web campaign to bring awareness of negative aspects of institutionalized care and develop a web-based informational tool for governments, child welfare agencies, and for the public. And what do we want to put there on the websites? We would like to reach the young people living in institutions around the world so that we could have them make our videos, send their pictures, and share their stories so that more people around the world would know what it is to live in an institution. We also would like to share any information about deinstitutionalization and why it is so important issue. Also, we would like to gather the information of those organizations who are already working with this issue so that they can form an alliances so that we can make a movement. And we also would like to share an information and some encouragement towards the family-based care system. And because we are an international group, we also would like the site to be international so that the videos and the information would be available in other languages, because we would like to contact our partner organizations so that they could translate the messages that the youth will send, so that no matter where the message is from and who is receiving it, there will be understanding between what is the issue about. And we would also utilize social networks such as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, because we're experts in that area also, using them every day, to connect with the international public and to promote web campaigning. And if you young people in care find the website by themselves from YouTube, from Twitter, from Facebook, we want to give them an option to share their videos and their stories by sending them us so that we can put them on the site and give them a chance to have their voice heard and to be part of this movement towards family-based care.
So next we will have the prevention task group.
Once again, welcome everybody. our group is working on the prevention and placement recommendation. My name is Shadrach. I'm from Kumasi, Ghana. And then my colleague Steve is from California, the United States of America. Shana is from Canada. Miranda is from California. Naomi is from Canada. Sisto is from the United States. And together, we all have spent a total of 103 years in foster care. So, everybody here left the comfort of his home, the comfort of his job for such a reason. And one of the reasons why we are all here is to help youth who are in care and the youth who are transitioning out of care to have better conditions that we didn't enjoy. And during the course of the week, we realized that though we all have the same passion, though we all suffered the same conditions, though we all suffered the same harsh treatment, we realized that in unison, in our own individual countries, the child welfare system is existent, but it is not helping youth who are transitioning in care. So we thought that in order to get different results, we can continue doing the same thing. So we came up with an innovative plan that can actually help us solve a problem. And the social problem that we recognize is that young people who experience the child welfare system are more likely to encounter negative outcomes.
So many of us know that young people in care experience these outcomes. And some of these outcomes include having a lack of education. It's harder to graduate high school, and only in the U.S., only 3% of youth in care get a bachelor's. And in the U.K., data has shown that care leavers are 4 times more likely to be in need of mental health services, 7 times more likely to suffer from an addiction, 50 times more likely to be incarcerated, 60 times more likely to become homeless, and 67 times more likely to have their own children taken into care. We really recognize that, I'm going to just list these off, that there's early pregnancy also for women, there's dependency on government assistance programs, and a lot of youth become homeless and are living on the streets. So as a group, we recognize that we have all these difficulties that many of us face, but what really happens globally? What things could we actually grasp and change across the world, not just in first world countries, but also in third world countries? And something that we realize that we all face is education. We lack education, and we also lack job opportunities.
So we can ask the question, what's already being done in this area? I'm sorry. I think the slide's a little bit messed up, but there are a list of organizations that are already making strides and progress towards this problem. However, we feel that there's a gap in that. But I'll start with the objectives of these organizations that we feel are close to ours. Now, the objective of these organizations is to take young adults from all upbringings of life and deploy them around the world for about 2 years. So when they return, they're granted an average of about $10,000 a grant towards school in an attempt to help improve their futures. Now, from these organizations, we take that we're inspired by the 2-year program frame. We think it's something we would like to incorporate into our initiative. And we like the idea that these programs are enabling the opportunity for high school or college-age people to opt in and find their role within the organizations. However, our recommendation is filling a gap, like I said, of these organizations, and I'll speak on that shortly. Am I still up there?
So this is how the child welfare core, the global child welfare core that we are looking to create is going to look like. Fellows will be placed with international or domestic NGO that are dealing with child welfare issues. Fellows who participate in the program will also receive a living stipend
and health insurance. And then after the fellowship, fellows will receive a grant for post-secondary educational purposes. Just like America. And then this program will actually also open the opportunity for dedicated Youth in Care alumni to apply and become an ambassador of the program. So, I know some of us might be confused. What is actually this whole child welfare call going to be like? What are going to be some of the repercussions that are going to come out of this program? Here are a few. This program seeks to create unique job experiences that can lead to a higher career building skills. It will also give youth alumni grants towards post-secondary education. Now, we all know the benefits of scholarship. I'm in school, and then if even I don't have $500 to sponsor my education, if my school decides to take $500 of my scholarship, it's going to be a big problem for me. So this is something big that this program is actually going to seek to do. And also this program will help to build social capital, help these youth who participate in the program, these youth in care who participate in the program to actually gain access to social networking, bond with people that will be very vital and beneficial to their future endeavors. Also, this program will seek to create a pipeline of excellence and raise the bar of expectations for youth who are living foster care. I remember just last year when I was leaving Ghana, and I got into several Ivy League schools, and a lot of the youth who are also in the orphanages, they were like, hey, we were here with you. I mean, you were in the foster care system, and then you ran away onto the street, and you spent your entire high school year on the street. So how did you do it? How come you are getting to all these top schools in the world? And I told them, you can also do it. And I didn't even know that word went that far. But just last month, I heard 2 of these kids have actually gained full scholarship admission into Dartmouth University. And that is such a big thing. And that is something great that this program, if we are provided a grant, if we are provided the financial assistance that we need at this moment, will actually seek to work on. And then this program will also help to create new generations of leaders in child welfare.
Okay, so first I would like to speak on what our global and welfare corporation is not trying to do. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Our proposal aims to fill the apparent gap in which youth care alumni are not the central focus of the aforementioned programs. So based off this problem we have earlier addressed, we feel there's an imperative need to make these alumni our core in the initiative. In deploying these alumni into a child welfare setting, having them recruit foster parents in needed areas, and even taking them as far as African orphanages are all things we know are achievable with our program, Fostering Global Resiliency. Fostering Global Resiliency. And so, I'm sorry, could we go back to that slide about funding? I wanted to talk about that. So, the question is, everyone's going to ask, how can we fund this? How would we fund this? So our plan, if awarded the $5,000 grant, is spreading awareness of our proposal towards established, accessible international organizations of which we can use their expertise in making our vision a reality. For instance, President Obama has set aside funds just waiting for innovative programs such as ours. Echoing Green offers funds and assistance, and the rest of these organizations could do the same for us, given we have the opportunity. So, utilizing the monies available from this list and beyond, this is just another calculated step in moving forward with fostering global resiliency, or FGR. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. Thank you very much. Can we get the next group up here, please? So since we have the lovely panel up here offering their time to us, we're just going to switch it up a little bit and create some more interactions. This is a multi-generational. So what I'd like to do is invite the next group up, and have, right after they present, in their 5 minutes, to have the panelists offer some feedback and information and create a bit of that dialogue that we were hoping to have here. And then after that, we'll bring up at the end, we'll bring up the first two groups and have the support and dialogue then at the end. So does that work? It does. Okay, awesome. And I just have to say that these presentations are just getting better and better every time I hear them. And every time I hear the ideas, I'm blown away all over again. So thank you guys so much. Can we have the next group up, please, which coincidentally is my group?
You got to do it. Well, we really do want to thank you for your time and attention, and also to our international partners and colleagues. Our group is Youth and Alumni Engagement. My name is Adrian McLemore, and I'm from Dayton, Ohio. This is Winnie from Kenya, Barbara from Pennsylvania, Tayona from Georgia, the country, Lilia from Canada, and Alex from Scotland. Our group, as we said, was... Sorry, they're getting photos. Our group was from Youth and Alumni Engagement. And so our two main goals this week was to make sure that we got to an end game. And we realized that there are a lot of organizations and countries and states who do not have engagement in their foster care system. And so from the time that we got here on Monday to the time we are here today on Friday, our main focus was to make sure that we set up a plan to get those jobs done and get them done as quickly as possible so that we don't lose momentum. I did want to say this, too, as well, is that, everyone had traveled a long way from across the world, and some of us lost luggage, some of us had long flights, some of us had short drives, but, it all reminded us of being back in care when you realize, one day, if I could just tell the world how to fix what was crazy about my life, and then here we are today staying on stage talking to people around the world and with our wonderful colleagues here, so that's a really big accomplishment that we've already started since being in care. The quick fixes that we wanted to talk about really quick. When we get when we leave this summit and when we get back to our respective countries and states, we want to make sure that we can keep the drive going. And so one was earlier in the week, we had a lady who came in for one simple wish and told us about challenging us to go back to our states, to go back to our countries, to see if we could find a foster youth who could possibly use something, whether it's a meal, whether it's a bike, whether it's a loft. Out. All right. It's going in and out. It's fine. And so that's our first quick fix. The second quick fix, and we've already actually started that today thanks to Richard, is a communications list. So when we leave this summit, we don't forget the momentum and the people that have changed our lives. And not just about the business of what the summit is here for, but also how we're growing up and what we're doing with our lives. The other thing is a quick resource guide. A resource guide that allows states and countries who do not have an actively engaging population to get some of that stuff started as well. So then, and also Tayona from Georgia came up with a great idea that I'd like her to share with us as well.
Well, hi again, everyone. For me as a speaker, that room was better, so I was less nervous there. As Adrian said, our topic is youth and alumni engagement, which is very important in every country, everywhere in child welfare system. As our big friend, Dr. Freeman said, people study from books and then work in child welfare. But you have studied you have lived those things, what people study. So you should be involved, you should be hard and listened. So there are campaigns started in different countries, and there are countries where there is nothing. Maybe there is something, but not enough. It's not enough. So we think that we should strengthen and empower young people from care with care experience to involve in creating policies, in creating events, in creating children rights, or to improve or to do their job. So what we thought is that to create international internship, what would help any young person to do the same activities, for example, what is happening right now here. To do that, for example, in my country, to help young people to be heard. So, thank you. I would give you a word.
I really want to give props to Tayona for this idea because we are on our way home from a fabulous state dinner at Annie Casey Foundation, and she came up with this idea as we were talking about what we did in our respective countries, and she suggested that international internship. And we talk a lot about youth and alumni engagement here. But I'm from the States. I have access to my legislators. I have access to public officials. I have access to the people who make the decision making. But that's not the case in every country. A lot of the representatives here are from other countries where youth engagement is very difficult, and they are starting it from the ground up. So we don't want them to leave here and go home and have difficulty and be deflated. We want to support them, and we want to kind of build a network where, for instance, Tayona can call me next week and say, hey, I know that you're involved in the Youth Advisory Board in Pennsylvania. Can you tell me how I can get started? We're dealing with tokenism in Georgia. How do you tackle that? That one-on-one piece that really, really is vital to sharing ideas and really walking alongside other youth and alumni from other systems and care. So it's beyond an interactive website, which is very important, but really just building a network that is dynamic and always growing, and just, I want to be friends with these guys forever. And so just really making that happen. And it's selfish in a way, but if it grows, it grows. And so, we're just very glad to be here today.
I'm Winnie from Kenya, and I want to echo about the internship program. Back at home, we came up with this idea of having a cyber for like an income generating activity for the young people who exited care and don't have a job or something like that. We did a proposal and we received the funding, and out of that we are able to have like an internship program. After every 3 months, we have 3 people from the Kenya Society of Caregivers who get an opportunity to intern at the cyber, and they get a stipend, and it's working. So I'd really love to promote this idea of having like international internship for international young people who've grown up in care. I mean, it's a great opportunity since we're giving them the foundation. We won't give them like big jobs and all that kind of thing, but at least we're giving them a base, something to start up, something to grasp and hold on. And from that, other opportunities, other channels, now it's up to them. At least if you're given something to start off, then continuing is not hard. And another thing, we are not really that involved, so I'd really appreciate if, like the young people get engaged in policy making, coming up with the ideas. I am the chairman of the Kenya Society of Caregivers. We were involved in drafting the manual for the best practice manual of charitable children institutions back at home, and most of the directors there didn't like that idea. They thought we are not grateful and all that kind of thing when we are in those meetings, when we are sharing and all that. But the thing is, we are very grateful. Personally, I'm grateful for the short time I was in care. Like, I appreciate the food, the shelter, education, and all that. And when I'm trying to make it better for another child, it's not like I'm not grateful. The thing is, we want to make it better, And the moment they start realizing that we're not like selfish, we're not ungrateful, then I believe we're going to work together and we're going to do something huge.
Okay, so we'd love to hear from the panel. Oh, just one sec. So, where's Lilia? Oh, you have the mic. Okay. This we need to give to tech guy. Sorry. Thank you very much for presenting. That was a really awesome presentation. So, like we said, we're going to invite all the groups up, or the first 2 groups that presented, so they can have a interactive discussion with the panelists. So, you guys stay on stage too. So the first 2 groups that came up. Sorry.
So we'll review all 3?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a lot of work.
Yep,
Sorry.
That's okay. No. We just want to make sure.
So the first 2 groups that came up and presented.
So you can make comments on any of the 3.
Only have 1 microphone, so we'll go by the first group first, second, third,
Okay. So
until we get our second microphone.
Shall we respond to the three groups?
Well, they're saying they want to do it in order, so they'll start with group one again.
Yeah, but it's hard because these are complex issues.
Right.
I don't think they...
Can we just make one comment? And then
Well, they have questions. And if anyone from any of the groups have any questions to ask the panel, you'll have a chance to do so right after.
I think we want to be clear so we make sure we help. Are we supposed to give feedback based on the proposal of what we any heard?
What? Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. And for all three or just the first one?
For all three.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
Shall I start?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I guess it is thank you first of all for all the recommendations and your thoughts. They are extremely important. And I would like to start by saying that I would like to strengthen the importance of the biological family, despite of the fact that you've been talking primarily about foster care and the avoidance of institutionalization, what I fully support. However, what we know that if prevention would work properly and parents, families would get the needed support they deserve, as parenting is becoming more and more demanding and more complex, then obviously much fewer children would need any kind of public care or out-of-family care provision. So what I would like to say that there was in the other room that stunning brain scan, which is one of the symbols of the child development for a number of years, because what we've learned from brain research, that from the first moment of life, even during the pregnancy, high quality, accessible service that is universal, and the eligibility is there for all. That is the best service ever, because that is helping children to get everything they need from the first moment of their life, and what they need is mostly emotional stimulation, caring, nurturing environment. So this is very important to acknowledge, and I guess it is not widely known, although it's obvious. It should be absolutely common sense. It should be told to everybody, through the media, in schools, everywhere, because this is the most important thing when we are becoming parents, that we are aware of it, or much earlier if possible. The other thing I would like to say is that foster care, family-based care is becoming more and more challenging all over the world. If you are looking around the world, as more and more families need two income, and also there is a strong willingness to take an active part on the labor market by the parents, we cannot rely on the old-fashioned family-based care. So we have to be sure that those who are taking care of children in their own homes as foster families, they need very good quality support, all kind of support, training, supervision, ongoing support, and also financial aid. Because we cannot expect them just devoting their life without any kind of additional support, because it's not working anymore. Children are coming into the care system with more and more complex problems, as you know, and you are aware. You are the very lucky ones, and I'm really, really happy that we can also provide good examples, wonderful outcomes, resilient young people. So you can obviously help us, all professionals, to learn more about how can we achieve that. But we know a lot of things that are absolutely essential from this respect. Also, I see a very big danger now that while in this part of the world and also in Europe, deinstitutionalization, if I may say, it's really hard to pronounce. So in Europe, we introduced DI as an easy version, if I may say. So if we are focusing on this and quality care, while in Africa, there is a growing demand, so to say, for institutions, and we should prevent it. So this is one message for you, that if you can help us to prevent deinstitutionalization in Africa, because we've learned all the lessons. So we shouldn't repeat all the mistakes on another continent just because there are a huge number of children who are in need for care. So we would need your help. And the last thing I would like to say, and then I give the floor to others, that if you are looking at the UN CRC Committee's concluding observations, that you can see clearly following our recommendations in each and every country's case, we are always mentioning the need for good preventive services, family-based care, and deinstitutionalization. So you should utilize this tool in your campaign or in your activities. And the last argument, that we know that family-based care, even the very high-quality family care, is very cost-effective, not because it is cheaper as a service, but because children like yourself are happier, they feel confident, and this is the real outcome. So we shouldn't just focus on cutting the budgets in the child protection, child welfare system. That's not the aim of the exercise. The exercise is to be effective and efficient and help children to grow up in a happy and nurturing environment.
First of all, I want to say that you guys all have awesome ideas. They're just awesome. They're really awesome. And they also are awesome because they corroborate a lot of the things that we think we know to be true too. So there's a lot of collective wisdom in the room. No matter who we talk to, we are saying mostly the same things, although you have enhanced and added to some of the things that we've been thinking. And I'll just share a little anecdote. Our organization had the good fortune, through the graciousness of you, to talk to you through a survey and through some focus groups to just sort of hone in and understand more a little bit about our work and how you perceive it. And one of the things that came out really interestingly was the importance of siblings. We talk about family and connecting family and family, but we don't know, we try to put siblings together, but the importance of them. And I was just on the phone with the commissioner of the New York City child welfare system, who was sharing a story of how they actually found a sibling in a refugee camp and connected that sibling to a child here in the U.S. and how powerful that was. And I said, see, that's what they've been telling us. Siblings are really important. So you've added to and fine-tuned what we think we know, and we are speaking together. And you will change the world with this information and with your ideas. One of the things that's really salient, because you're young and we're not, is you are able to incorporate social networking and technology into taking ideas, and you're going to put them out there in a way that we can't, or we just don't think that way. We have great ideas. We have documents and documents of great written material, research that we will give you, but if you can get it out there and get it commonly shared amongst the global network that you will create, that will help us working together to share what we already know, and you will make it possible, because we don't think about YouTube and Twitter. I mean, I can only handle one social media thing at a time. Pinterest, forget that. I mean, that's too complicated. This is also addressing some of the later groups and what they're going to say, but you're talking about mentoring and raising the bar and really promoting excellence amongst youth and alumni. And you have already done that. You have raised the bar just by being here and being who you are and sharing what you've shared with us. So you've started that. And the people who see you, like what was said, will want to be you, and that will encourage more. And you will make that very public. And that is so encouraging, because you live by example. You are creating a global network. We're a global network. And global networks are really important because when we think we know something, we can really fine-tune the knowledge by understanding how people do things differently and how we think we understand something, but in reality we don't understand things at all. And by asking questions of one another and learning about your different experiences from one another, we fine-tune what's most important. And we can rally despite the differences in our governments and our politics and the money and resources we have and the way we do things. We can rally around a common mission. And that's really exciting. It's really important. And it is the future of child welfare. Child well-being in our world and in our countries will be interrelated because of the work we do as a global community. And you've created that just by being who you are, coming together, and with your investment in staying together through the duration of this and bringing in others. And lastly, because you guys are expert networkers, and you've mentioned that, and a lot of your solutions involve networking and promotion and creating things and getting them out to people, not just in your own countries, but around the globe, I ask you the most important question is, how can we help facilitate your network? What do you need from us? How can we be there for you? How can we connect you to the people that we know so that you can get this information out to more people? We also know lots of networks. For example, in the project with the deinstitutionalization goal, the Better Care Network has a ton of information on that. So how can we connect you with them so that you can make that go global and make everybody know about it? There's like 5,000 subscribers. By the time you're done with it, there'll be 5 billion subscribers. So that's what we're here to do, is to connect you to what's known so that you can make it viral, make it common knowledge, make it a priority. Because really the only way to change the well-being or the way we deal with children in general is to make that a #1 priority around the globe. And you guys can do that because you're the voice, you have the stories, you have the energy, and you have the technology and innovation thinking that us old people just don't. So I leave you with this thought. Ask us for help. Ask us who we know. Ask us who we can introduce you to. Ask us where to find things. Ask us as many questions as you can possibly think of. And if you don't understand what we're talking about, because we love to throw around terminology and acronyms and all that kind of stuff, ask us what that means. There is absolutely no question that isn't valid in this work, and the only way to really accomplish some of these really awesome ideas that you put out there is to do it together. They're not completely new ideas, but you're approaching it in new ways, and we have a lot of the information and the resources that can help make this possible. So thank you for all that you do.
I'm going to, if I can, just for the sake of order, organize my comments by the proposals in the different groups, because I just think that will be helpful. And I've had the chance to interact with you over the last couple of days, so I'll leave aside some of the more general comments that I've had a chance to make. But I really want to encourage the deinstitutionalization group, or the DI group, because I think you've hit on something that is key to moving forward. And I think sometimes you've heard the term, we're speaking to the choir. I think there's a growing and very increased awareness amongst those of us who are already experiencing child welfare, either through your lens, which is having grown up through it, or through my lens, which is having worked in the system for as long as I have. And where we're kind of lacking is the type of change that occurs when you get outside the choir, when you make the general public aware of the fact that this is a global problem, and that this is a global problem that affects them in the same way that it affected you having grown up through care. And I think the reason that that is so essential, and why it's also so important, as I love the idea of doing it through the web, is that's the immediate way to take it global. It gets away from some of the geographic and language and other barriers that have maybe prevented that conversation from occurring on a global level before. I also think it's great because there's going to be different ways that people will learn this information. There are those who will absorb the data and the research, and there are those who will respond to a video, and there are those who will respond to a youth testimony. So having that be a diverse place for information to be gathered and be there so that a person can go to it and find the information translated in a way that speaks to them, I think is very, very helpful. I think one thing you want to think about is if you're successful and you motivate people to better understand, the first thing you hope they're going to want to do is act. So you may want to think about, if I'm doing what I want to do by this website and I am encouraging people to be more aware, they're going to want to know, well, what can I do? And in thinking about answering that, again, remember that you're going to be hopefully speaking to a diverse group of people. And so making sure that the menu of actions that you put forward is as diverse as the way in which you made them aware, because that is something we're also finding, that if people feel like the action that's put forward is something that they don't feel they're equipped to do, or they don't feel they're in a position to act upon, then you lose them. And you don't want to lose them because you've gotten them in the first place. And so that would be one thing that I would think you would want to do. I think the other thing too is to appreciate in informing people that this is something I can tell you even from my own experience, that I studied early childhood in college. I went to a very specific law degree program that worked on issues affecting children. I'm now the proud mother of 3 children, and I have yet to go into a lecture on this and not learn something. And that's because the research is changing and our understanding of it is changing, and that's very, very exciting. But making sure that you allow people to digest that in ways that they understand that family, the reason we're all focused so much on family is because not that it's the great thing to celebrate on Mother's Day and Father's Day, but because there is a critical thing about it being a human being in similar to the other types of species, if you will, in which that relationship and the consistency and other things that ultimately help you grow and become the adults that we want you to be. And so those are just some insights on that particular group. I also love the idea, as you know, we're very proud of the Foster Youth Internship, and it's very much designed for that same thing, to be able to put youth at the table and into conversations that they should be a part of, and to use their experience and their stories to start to innovate and think about ways to solve them. So the idea of having this be global and being something that is available on an international level, I think, is tremendously exciting. I would challenge you to think about two things. One is that we have found that although an aspect of the program that we administer is professional development, as the Senator was saying, you know, it is a great resume builder to say that you've worked for any amount of period in Congress in the United States. And yet, that isn't the only objective of it. In fact, I would say it's a consequence of it as opposed to the objective of the program. Our real objective is to make sure that the young people who participate are supported and are lifted up in their desire to be a part of the conversations that are happening at the very highest level. And there are other programs that are equally good in the United States that have more as their focus the professional development, that giving youth who otherwise wouldn't have the chance to engage meaningfully in job training that opportunity. And so just think about those things as being two equally important goals, and yet sometimes those two goals in the same program might not work. And so deciding what it is that you would want to achieve by the program and making sure that both the interns that you'd be recruiting for it and the positions that you'd be putting them forward for are aligned with that objective in mind. I love, love, love that you're already looking at places that are thinking about these things, because I can tell you, having worked with many of the organizations that you've listed, that they are very interested in doing as much as they possibly can in these areas. And so I really encourage you to, as you said, use the funding that if you were to be successful in getting, and to think out how this would be done, and that's what's called a turnkey approach. Then you walk in and you've made it simple for someone who's already had the desire to do this to make that possible. The third group, I guess my question a little bit was simply, you know, I think we need help in understanding the difference between Group 2 and Group 3 in terms of your goals and objectives, because they appear a little bit similar, but I sense from the way they were presented that that's maybe just my misunderstanding of the nature of them. I loved the idea of, or at least something that seemed to come through in Group 3, so would love some further clarification, is this idea of exchange that seemed to come out of Group 3 that wasn't in Group 2. The idea of bringing youth together, there's a reason there's a UN. There's a reason that we have the G8 summit on the global environment and things like that, because there are shared experiences. And I firmly believe that, as Dr. Samuels was saying earlier, that this is something that all countries are struggling with, these same questions. And so maybe there's an opportunity to bring, as you have here, the congressional or the Congress or summit idea to youth voices, and so that governments who perhaps are a little bit further behind in allowing that voice to be heard are still not unrepresented. And so those are my comments.
Thank you so much for your wonderful and in-depth comments for all of the first three groups. I know it was a bit difficult to sort through because we had all of them come up at once, but you guys have been so gracious and wonderful. So if we could just ask the next group to please come up. Thank you all. Erwin, would you be so kind as to offer your comments to the next group?
Yes, of course.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it. And let's just make like Youth in Care and roll with the punches like we always have. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we're really excited to have this group on stage, and after they speak in their 5 minutes, which are so perfected, we're going to hear from Erwin, his feedback from the group. one more comment, and then we'll transition to our last group, take 2 more comments from the panel, and conclude our discussion. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for giving us this platform to share with you what we have. This is the group we have been working on identity and culture for the past 5 days, and we're here to present what we have. My name is Veliano Tembo from South Africa, and
hi, my name is Jade Maitland. I'm from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
I'm Dawn Lamette, and I'm from Ontario, Canada.
I'm Jasmine Cowley. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
I'm Rashida Bates-Williams. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
I'm Cornette Hamilton, and I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
And our friend who isn't here is Nicholas, and he's from Washington, D.C., but he's allergic to seafood and couldn't be in the room. So.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to introduce you to one of the amazing things we have done so far. We have spent 5 minutes, we are about to spend 5 minutes, and we have already spent like 4 days. But we are about to make a change that will stand, I mean, like for the youth that are here, for the youth that are yet to come, for the youth who is like in Africa, in the developed countries, and that voice, that knowledge will stand for like years to come. And I went to foster care when I was 5 years old, and I've been there for 18 years now, and I've seen a lot. And I want to change the problem I had into a solution. You know, back then, we had the ratio between like a child and the social worker like 300 to 1. As you can see, the resources just limited right there. We had a challenge, but we had to tackle it. We had to face it. What we did was like, we had to change the mentality of the youth. We gave the youth the responsibility. We had to make the youth to be the resource for the other youth. We had to change the youth to be the parent for the other child. The youth had to change from being an individual to like a responsible young adult for this young child, this young brother, this young sister. We had to do it all together. We had to be a resource. We had to be a mentor for everybody. So we're here, you know, to make sure that this system is implemented, and we want to share this idea to the rest of the world. And we are very sure, I can guarantee you that, I'm seriously believing that this will work wherever it is, and I don't care where it is, but it will work.
Thank you. Okay, so our idea starts with a website accessible to anyone in any country across the globe. The idea starts with a core group of youth who run the training to teach other youth to be young mentors in their communities, in their institutions, group homes, orphanages, and foster homes across the globe. It's to teach young mentors around the world to be sensitive to how to find and connect to community resources, and how to train and help the adults in their lives to learn about and support youth in identity and cultural growth. The point is to provide all youth with a safe community to learn about their culture and who they are without feeling judged. It's global, so it would be the internet for everyone. So someone from Finland could ask about LGBTQ groups, and someone in Canada could answer them. Our principle that it would be built on is we feel that culture and identity makes up who you are, and that it is the core of every person's being. So when a youth has a strong sense of culture and identity, whether it's with race, religion, sexuality, or gender, it strengthens them, and it can only lead to permanency and non-involvement in the justice system.
So our mentorship program will focus on the training of mentors who will work with the young people. We will focus on tracing genealogy of the youth in care that we work with, and youth from care, support groups, cultural food and events, and we will also try to establish opportunities for international and national exchanges. Our program will be run for youth by youth, as they are the experts of their experiences.
So for funding, we were thinking about it, and Rashida was right that everyone in here has sort of the same idea, a big website where we can go to, where we can connect to each other for all of the different principles that we're promoting. So our funding would come from donations from different companies and people around the world that want to donate and be able to be a part of it so that we can send youth to different countries to learn about things. And fundraising so that the youth around can be responsible for being a part of this. So they can be responsible for part of their trip because that's the only way you learn. So that's our presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for the presentation and to the other groups as well. You know, if there was a group of 30 adults from around the world, or elderly people from around the world like myself, from representing various organizations, and we were given the task to meet each other and come up with ideas in small groups and then present them on stage a couple days later, internationally, over the web, it wouldn't happen. And you've been in meetings with us, and you know we couldn't do it, right? You've seen it. And so I want to say that because, you know, the panel here, we could debate all day. I have lots to say about institutionalization and what I think, and we could debate all day and complicate things. And you guys oftentimes can make things, it was said earlier in the week, really simple. And actually things sometimes are very simple. And so I think that's really important to remember. And I don't want to really have it, you've made it clear what you want to do. But there's a couple things that we haven't touched on, and I've heard of all four groups, which is that you said you are going to do it. You didn't say you want me to do it or somebody else. You didn't quite ask for any support, but I know from your discussions, the implication is, yeah, you need some resources to do that, sometimes advice, but could we get out of your way? And I want to acknowledge that. And I want to say that two things before I end. I think you're pretty special people, the people I've met, the delegates I've met. But in many ways, and you know this, I think, every young person in the group homes that you've lived in the foster homes, in the orphanages, also in many ways wants the opportunity to make change. They always talk about, I'm worried about the people who are coming after me. And yes, you are tremendously successful to be here, you're in school, and there's others who are not, but even those ones who are not in school want the opportunity to create change. So I don't want anybody listening, any organizations listening, to forget that they are a resource too. And in giving the opportunity, having as we talked earlier about creating the space that Latrice deserves a lot of credit for this, giving that space, allowing this to happen can happen with the young people here, but it can happen in every country that we work in. It can happen in our organizations. It can happen with anybody. It's actually about humans, I think, human beings. So I don't want to forget that. The other thing I want to say that I thought a lot about was speaking to the organizations listening, but also in the room, that there's a group of stories that First Nations writer in Canada had written. And he wrote stories about First Nations children. And at the end of each story, it was a book of short stories. He said to the reader something I'm going to paraphrase. You can turn this story into a TV show. You can turn it into a movie. You can tell your friends. You can ignore it. But you can never live your life again as if you've never heard this story. And for the organizations here, and the people who've spoken to you, including myself, Senator Landrieu, the Secretary of State, or the representative from the Department of Health and Human Resources, to the panelists, to IFCO, to the Congressional Committee, to the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, to UNICEF, to the University of Maryland, that the president who spoke to you, you cannot live your life like you were not part of this moment. And so if something is going to happen out of this summit, we need to provide the fuel for it to happen, just the way the fuel was provided to create the space. We are in this moment, and I challenge the organizations, the KC Foundation, whoever that is here and made this happen, I challenge us to allow this to continue. This cannot end. And you've created the opportunity. You and the groups that have come forward have said, we are ready to move. And we need to provide the fuel. We need to find a way to ensure that you can move forward. That's our, in rights terms, that's our duty. You're the rights bearers, we're the duty bearers. That's our duty. And we have to make that happen.
Thank you so much, Erwin. And I just have to say that as a Canadian who's also working in the Provincial Advocate's Office, Erwin is like a total national hero for youth rights, and he's done some really neat things. So I'll be having conversations with my boss, who's his counterpoint, about all the work he's doing. I'll be challenging her on a few things. Thank you so much. Can I invite the next group up, please? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lakeisha Dorsey, and I, along with my colleagues, Jatane Hart from the United States, Merlin from Estonia, Richard, who's also from the United States of America. We also have Trey, who's also from the United States, and we have Amanda, who is from Canada. We all were basically charged with the task of coming up with one global policy recommendation regarding permanence and independence. Before we got into our recommendation, we really thought that it was important to define permanency and independence so that we could all be on one page. And so often when we think of permanency, we focus on permanency within the context of a youth's time in care, to the point where we've even considered options such as long-term foster care and institutionalization as options of permanency. However, in our discussions, we all declared that permanency does not end at 16, 18, or 21, but rather is a lifelong connection that one should have throughout their entire lifetime. And in terms of independence, pretty much what we said was that there's a lot of emphasis put on teaching youth about becoming independent rather than teaching them how to form healthy, interdependent relationships. And when we looked at the word independence, we basically submit that no one is really truly independent, that we're all interconnected with one another. And so based upon those recommendations, or those definitions, we basically came up with one solid recommendation. And that recommendation is that every child should leave care with at least 2 lifelong meaningful relationships, both inside and outside of care. And what we mean when we say inside and outside of care is you'd have someone that actually is connected to like the child welfare system that'll help you to navigate the system, and someone who'll be outside of the foster care system who will help you to navigate life and have like more of like a normal type mentorship or I guess permanent person in your life. And so Estonia is actually going to give us an example, or excuse me, Merlin's going to give us an example of how they do it in Estonia.
Okay, in Estonia it's working like this. I grew up there, like for 12 years in care, and I had from the system, I had my SOS mom, who is brilliant woman. I can connect with her every time when I want it. And even she's not working in the system anymore, I can call to her, I can be with her. But there was other side. Out of system, I had one friend whose parents took me as their own child. And I saw the system outside of the system. It was like real life, which is not structured. You just do your doings. You are just go where you need to go. You don't need to have rules. You just live your real life. It's just like you everybody live at the moment.
Being able to achieve permanency and independence is a very important key and key to successful outcomes for youth that have been in the foster care system. I entered the foster care system when I was 7 years old. I remained in the system until I emancipated at the age of 18, where I had lived in 12 different homes. I did not have a foster parent or a mentor who provided me with structure and support. I lacked basic life skills that a young youth would gain while growing up in a consistent and secure family setting. As a result, I was behind educationally and had not achieved some of the basic life skills. This lack of permanency impacted my ability to be independent. When I emancipated, I was accepted to the California State University of Fresno. However, I also found myself instantly homeless. Without a permanent support system, I found that I could not maintain my attendance in college. My daily focus was on where I was going to sleep and where I was going to get my next meal. I stopped going to college and dropped out. I was lucky to have had the opportunity to enter a program that provided me with forms of support and permanency. I found that I had the security and support I needed to allow me to re-enter college and attend successfully. Having permanency led me towards independence.
Alrighty, so we have the what, we have the why, and now we'll talk about the how. Our recommendation, we had a consensus from the whole entire delegation as we looked at recommendations prior to getting here, that really everybody believed young people in care should have a permanent relationship, that those relationships help youth process emotional issues and help them support them through transitions and things like that. And so although we were supposed to have we have one recommendation, but we have lots of hows because it's impossible to build permanent relationships in one manner. And so I'm going to really briefly touch on the 4 that we came up with, and then one I'm going to delve into, which you have in front of you, the pathways. And so the first one was, which is obvious, is adoptions, or adoption options we call it. And that was legal ways to get either guardianship or adoption. And as Keisha said, that does not include long-term foster care. That is not a permanent option because we know that most times in long-term foster care you age out and you still do not have that connection to a permanent person. The second one has to do more with independence and the fact that young people need the skills necessary to be self-sufficient. Young people, I think that we talked about, in the United States, we have the Independent Living Skills Program, and we really looked at it and thought about reforming it to be a global model that's really focused on young people getting the opportunity to learn both soft and hard skills in a natural environment, and getting the opportunity to apply those skills and really practice out in the real world. Sitting in a classroom doesn't really teach you how to do a lot of the things that you're taught to be independent. Our third option was mentorship. One of the other groups talked about mentorship. I think the 3 things that we drew out that were really important had to do with the fact that it needed to be a natural relationship, something not someone in the system who you're forced to be with, but someone who you may have already had a relationship with, or someone who an adult is able to connect you with because you have similar interests. And then also have the peer-to-peer mentoring and making sure that young people get to interact with their peers so that they do have that kind of sense of camaraderie. And the 4th one is the pathways. It's a transition training and comprehensive training that we thought we could develop And it really focuses on the fact that young people go through so many transitions in care and then even when they leave care. And I'm going to now put these notes down and kind of look at this pathways with you guys. And so the objective, like I said, is really to help young people cope with the emotional instability that transitions cause while they are in care. And we wanted this to really focus on the youth, be a training so that youth were trained to understand the transitions and what it means and kind of what's going on and process that. But it also means that the adults that are in their lives have to understand it to kind of help them process that. We know that young people or people who aren't in foster care tend to have parents or other adults in their lives that help them process things. And so we want young people to have that as well. And so I think when we were doing the research on kind of what other children experience similar experiences, and we found military families do a lot of moving, they're very transient as well. And in looking at some of the research, we found that some of the outcomes, particularly educationally, were higher than those of foster care. And we know that foster kids tend to have very low, I wouldn't say very low, they have lower graduation rates and going on to college and things like that. And so we wanted to figure out what were military families and military communities doing that was different than the foster care system. And so we found one model that showed that they have a lot of resources in the communities, that communities really come together to support these families as they move. They prepare them to move and to change schools. And then when they come to the new environment, they also then welcome them and show them kind of the ropes and the resources that are available. And so we use that model. We changed some of the language because we wanted to be a little bit more friendly to foster care and kind of apply to the experiences that foster kids go through. And so you have the stages here. There's 7 stages. The anticipation, notification. We know a lot of times that young people do not have notification that they're leaving. There may be anticipation because there's some kind of conflict in the house or there's something that happens that makes them go, okay, I can tell that this is going to fall apart. But very rarely do they have the opportunity to say, okay, someone tell them it's going to happen. And so really being able to have someone say, give you a notice. I know in California we have a 7-day notice. 7 days is not enough time to really prepare to leave and move. For a job you have to give 2 weeks notice, maybe something similar to that where you have that time to say, okay, this is what's happening. The next one is preparation, is really the talking and figuring out what's happening and having young people pack their bags before the day they're supposed to move. I have kids who move and knew they were moving but never packed their bags, and I don't understand that. And then the actual transition, which is pretty self-explanatory. And then taking control of the situation. But this one really had to do with not settling in, but kind of when you get to a new house, making sure you know the rules, that the young person really is in control of what's happening, that they don't come into a new house and feel, or new school and not know what's going on. And then adjusting in the honeymoon period. Sometimes adjusting means that they adjust well. Sometimes they have the honeymoon period where all of a sudden things that thought they were good fall apart. And so really taking that 5th stage and really trying to be aware of what's happening for the young person. And self-discovery is kind of getting, after you've settled, really feeling comfortable with yourself and what's going on. And then the turning point is the acceptance, the recognition, and then kind of the final settling in. And so those are this is a draft model of what it could look like, but we thought that was really important. And then you have a list here of kind of the continuum of care of the different transitions that happen. I'm not going to read them because I know you all can read. But I think that in looking at this model that we have here, really taking the other kinds of transitions and making it very specific to that and helping go through the 7 stages. And I know, and in order to make this international and accessible internationally, I think every group has talked about a website and said we should do a website and do this. And I think it's a great idea because we want to be able to have our partners around the world be able to access a compilation of tools and research and resources from around the globe. And so that's kind of how we would implement and put that out there. It's obviously we haven't delved into how to do that, but that's a kind of brief. And then we put some examples of resources that are kind of doing transition plans that are similar that we could use as resources and just to share. And so that's our presentation.
No, here, you can just, can give the other way,
Well, you know what strikes me? Before I was the provincial advocate, I worked in the field helping young people in child welfare care prepare to be independent or be independent. And I thought it was pretty successful, but I always have said what you said, Kathleen, every time, that's not, but many times, the most important things I've ever learned come from the lived experience of people who've been in the system, not from books and things. So today, you gave me this analogy of military families. And maybe because I'm Canadian and I didn't have that context, I never thought about it before, and I didn't do that link that you did in a few days. That's incredible. And it makes sense. And it's, you know, when you said it, I had to keep focusing on what you were saying after, because that piece is making me think, that's right, that's cool. How can we build on that? And I really think that's important. An important piece that you came up with, that I think when we provide the fuel so that you have the opportunity to carry that forward, that's something to build on for you, I think. To see how communities, if that happens, how that coming together happens and how you can use that to help other kids. So thank you for that piece of learning.
Most of you know I won't be quiet. I had two comments. One is I really liked the idea, and especially when you were talking about the 4 buckets in the beginning, because I think sometimes as practitioners we are so desperate to put one person in your life, we think that one person is sufficient, and that one person as a parent or one person versus peers versus whatever. And so I really, really liked that you said, you know, most people need lots of people, and they need people for different reasons. So you need the modeling that you can do from an adult or a parent, and you need the support that maybe only comes from a peer. And so I really liked that. I liked that challenges us as a system not to be satisfied if we only help a youth in care identify that one person, but identify the multiple needs for people that they will inevitably have throughout their lives. I really, really like that. I totally agree that I always love when we look outside of system and child welfare and we take what's really, really good from it. The only final thing that I'll say is one thing that I think about when I'm making something easy to do is that I think we should still keep transitions shouldn't happen as often as they are occurring. And so while it's important that we help youth go through these transitions successfully, part of the problem is they're happening too often. So
and I think this echoes already the comments before me, I like that you're redefining what permanency means. I think so long in our system we think about permanency as one solution thing. It's adoption, adoption, adoption. And I think family and relationships and positive relationships, this is something that came out of the focus groups, it's about positive relationships, thinking about permanency in a different kind of way, that there are many ways to have relationships, there's many people that are important in our lives, including siblings, that can be part of the permanency plan. And so I think that helps us think outside of our normal constraints, because when we define something in a limited way, we limit our solutions. And one of the things that also came out of the interviews and surveys was that there's a rule of 1,000. For every 1,000 children, there are 1,000 different experiences of the system, and there are 1,000 different options. And so you guys are helping to broaden our thinking, which is really important. And second, in the objective, this is just a small point, but I always like to think of when we talk about coping with emotional instability, how can we broaden that to do more than just cope with?
Right.
How do we overcome? How do we build skills? How do we turn that around in a positive way so that we're skill building rather than just adjusting to a situation, but not only adjusting, but changing the situation, overcoming it, and transcending it. So thinking about our language is really key when we think about broadening our options.
I hate to jump in. I want to just note that we actually talked about that in our group, and really in the beginning it's kind of a coping mechanism, but as those transitions, you have that adult there to help you through them. Hopefully there's less transitions because you learn to build trust and to be able to, you have conflict resolution and all of those skills that you would learn normally in a home setting with a family that a lot of times foster youth aren't learning, that you will learn those. And so then not only are you building skill sets so that as you get into adulthood and you have, transition from college into real world, that you've learned those skills to then take with you. And then you've also created permanent relationships with those adults that have helped you throughout the way.
Right, so just say exactly that, and you've said it, because you're building skills, not just coping, but you're building skills. And I think that's what you're saying. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I may come back for a second to the previous group on website and worldwide connection, I have to remind you, although I find it fascinating, and I agree with Kathleen, that actually the social media has become the issue for today, and it makes life much easier as we can connect. But also I have to remind you that many children, many children in care have no access to social media. So we have to be very conscious about other forms of accessibility, because I can say that in my part of the world, in Central and Eastern Europe, not even professionals have often access to internet even, because that's an issue. There are not enough computers, no internet connection, no money, and also for political reasons, many authorities are happy if they don't. And that's the same case with children. So we have to be aware of it, although I know that this should be an easy. The other is the language issue, that we are very fortunate. We understand here each other because we are speaking English. However, obviously, the level of our English is very different. Look at mine, for instance. But obviously, there are many countries where people don't speak English, and they are tiny little languages also. And many children are suffering from the lack of good communication opportunities, not mentioning their communication skills that are also needed to be improved, because that is also an issue, that many children who are suffering from emotional deprivation have difficulties expressing themselves. And so I don't want to put an extra burden on you to resolve that. Obviously, we have to resolve it together, but we have to think of other forms of communication. How can we reach out those who are not so easy to reach? And concerning the permanency, perhaps it's not a very nice thing, because we try to be very positive, especially we are in the United States. In Europe, we are not so positive. We are more often complaining or negative, but here I know we have to smile and be positive. But I must say something, that I consider this kind of unplanned transition and lack of preparation, it's clear-cut child abuse. I mean, it is what we call system abuse. This is system abuse. That's when the child protection system, the social welfare system, is actually behaving in a very neglectful, abusive way, just like those families where from children are placed into other families or provisions. So this is one of the main areas where my interest is focusing, that how can we change this system that is there to protect children and not hurting them further. So I cannot accept that this kind of transition is the way it is happening. So I guess it is another area where we should work together very closely to make it more visible, the harm caused, and also making it clear that we cannot tolerate it, because this is a very severe form of abuse of children. And just, I'm missing one component. No one has mentioned, and that has to be a good reason for, and we should explore that schools are not mentioned at all. So
that was one of the areas we did not.
Yeah?
Because our focus was on permanency.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, children are spending most of the day in school. And if the school is community-based, it's a good school, also offering out-of-school activities, that is also a wonderful opportunity, in principle again, to connect, to have role model teachers, educators, sports trainers, coaches, whoever are there, music teachers, who we can adore and cope with. And also this is a wonderful opportunity to be connected. So I only hope that this is not because you haven't experienced anything good around that. I'm sure you did. So I guess this is also part of this community being based connection. And I know the mobility or the changes are also challenging the school often. But again, I must say, permanency also means that we are not moving children from a school where they are well established, where they feel safe, and when they have peer relationships and good teacher relationship. So I guess we have a lot to do, but it is really inspiring listening to you, and I only hope that we can work together, because we adults cannot resolve that. You can resolve it, and we are backing you up to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So just thank you so much to the panel. I mean, I think it's incredible that we're hearing all these very well thought out ideas, and you're fulfilling your role in the exact capacity that we hope to have you to offer that feedback and to look at some of the things that we've missed and to encourage us. So thank you so much. I'd just like to invite the room to maybe, can we all stand up, even our panel? Just, I think we need like a breathe in and like drop it down to the ground. Like breathe in, reach up to the sky, and like let it go. Maybe like a big sigh, because I'm feeling like I need a sigh. There's just so much inspiration that my brain feels full and saturated. Okay, so I feel a little better. If we can take a seat for one last time, what I'd like to do is one final step before we close for the day. I'd like to open up to the floor, because we have some guests that are joining us for the first time today. Are there any final questions for the panel or for one of the groups? Just anything that really spoke to you that you'd like to address? And I'd be happy to pass the microphone down and around. Am I seeing a hand? Yes, Stephen? Thank you. I didn't want to get down.
Quick man. Fast.
Okay. Well, I actually wanted to say this earlier. After we were done doing our presentations the first time, I understood we were low on time, so I didn't get to say this, and I think a lot of people can speak or agree with this. I hope so. So everyone before me, sorry, I'm pretty nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous now of all times. Everyone before me has already encompassed and articulated all that this summit has meant to us and will mean to others in the future, truly. I have had the opportunity to be a part of advocating on the behalf of child welfare for 4 years now, and I have a question. And I know this was the question that the founders of this summit had asked themselves as well. Why have I not been a part of something like this until now? Why now? Like, it took so long, right? So we've experienced the results of this summit. Among all the objectives we are to take after this, and I believe we can all agree that something is very important, that there will be an International Youth in Care Summit of 2013. Let's come back. 2013, right? Thank you.
Well, I have to tell you, if this alumni had a valedictorian, you would be it. Thank you so much for putting beautifully into such perfect words, I think, what a lot of us were thinking and feeling. So on that very bright note, I'd like to invite a very special person to close. Ian Forber-Pratt. Big round of applause. And I'm just, before I introduce Ian, I'd just like to say that someone, when we were in DC, someone said, after hearing all the work that he's doing in India, said, I'm pretty sure you sound like Batman. So I'm going to let Batman take over and give us some closing words for the evening. Thank you all so much for your contributions, your patience, and your wonderful energy today. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, some of the closing remarks have already said the things I planned to say, but this panel has just been amazing in kind of like summarizing what's been going on and kind of giving their support. And it's been an amazing thing to see. And for the people that are tuning in online, that's just a huge deal. And everybody here that has been engaged with this conversation. And I think the entire panel has said that it's the youth. It is the change makers that are in this room. Like I've said, I've been like tweeting and Facebooking and all that stuff. And the thing that I keep feeling is like I get chills. I literally get chills thinking about the power that's in this room and the fact that Like, there are people resolved here. When I look at people's faces, and I've heard the things that they say online and offline, in every sense of those two words, everybody is going to carry this forward. And we all have busy lives. I think that's the reality of it. We're all working every day doing certain things. When I read the bios in the beginning of all the delegates coming, that just, I mean, I forwarded it to everybody I knew because I was like, look at these people in the world that are doing good. But what I hear even more is that people are going to take their strengths that they have already and allow that to spiderweb out across the world to encompass everybody in this sense of a movement, this sense of momentum. And, you know, like just as Mr. Weatherby so eloquently told us, like, this is not the last time this is going to happen. And that's a pledge that I hope everyone can look around the room right now and look at everybody around you. You know, like, how can you pledge to carry this forward in whatever you're doing? Because the reality is we do get busy, like I said, but you can carry this forward. The light in people's eyes, the inspiration, when I've seen people smile, when I've seen people break down in tears, all of those things are coming from a point of, I have a duty to carry this forward. And so I'm so grateful for everyone being here and coming from around the globe and tuning in and giving really importance to this event and carrying it forward. So I just can't, like, from the bottom of my heart, being a part of this has forever changed my work moving forward, and I think it's changed all of our works in so many different ways. And so just if everybody could stand up and give each other a round of applause, I would really appreciate it. Okay, so what we're going to do now, everybody, is we're going to break, and in the room itself, until 4 o'clock, people can just informally chat and have conversations. And for the delegates, at 4 o'clock, please meet in the multi-purpose room over in the area where we're staying for some time together just as delegates to debrief and talk to each other about how you're moving forward. And please take the time to thank everybody that you see for the part that they've played in this work. And, excuse me. Thank you, panel. Thank you so much.
I'm freezing to death.
It's so cold, huh? I don't want it to roll, and then for you to get angry at me and have big tension. I like your glasses, by the way.